morning.
I really am awake.
First of all, what happened? I just want to ask you out of curiosity, what happened with the album that you did with Jerry of those standards?
Well, I'm still working on that stuff. I've got it in Los Angeles now, and I'm working on it with Peter, and I had a meeting with Nelson Riddle and about another tune that I wanted him to do, and he said, "Oh, we should do a whole album together." And I said, "Here, let's do let's do these." And so we've kind of started over again, from the ground up with the same tunes, and taking a little bit different approach to them. And poor Peter, I don't think he really wants to do this, but I do, so we're doing it.
Well, Jerry thought the album was great. Why didn't you want to release it?
I didn't think it was good enough. I felt that we didn't really have time to do it properly, and I wanted to spend more time in it. I also, you just get used to working with a producer in a certain way, and I'm used to having a certain amount of control over stuff, and I wanted it. So that's what I'm doing. Because Peter, Peter, I made him work real hard this last couple of years. The poor guy. I mean, it's a wonder he's still on his feet. I mean, he had to do all that pirate stuff with me. I asked him if he would produce the soundtrack of the movie because I didn't really think that I would do it without him. There was so much technical difficulty recording. When you record it with an orchestra, you can't do it like you do with rock and roll. You can't do little sections and stuff. You have to get it all at once, and there are all kinds of things that make it real hard to do. And I don't think I would have trusted somebody else on the other side of the glass. I would have thought they were being inept, And I've known Peter for so long. I know how smart he is, and when he says, you can't do this or have to do it this way, I know that that's the way you have to do it, and I'll try my best to do it like that. But if it were someone else, I would think, oh, they can't be right. They must not know what they're doing. We have to get somebody that knows what they're doing, And it just would have made it harder, or it would have made it impossible.
Was that a problem with the rest of the cast? I mean, were you able to have that kind of control over the whole cast?
No, they hadn't had that much recording experience. I didn't have any control. None of us had any control. I mean, what controlled it was the technical impossibility of the project. There was always a technical reason why you had to do it a certain way. Because they had to get it all on, so that then they could add it to the movie, and also so that we could lip sync to it afterward. So there were hundreds of technical problems involved with just opening your mouth and singing it the first time. And he put in so much work on it. It was just amazingly difficult to do. And it took so much time, and of course there wasn't very much money involved, And so then we also did my album, which was long and hard, and we enjoyed it doing it. I know we did, but it was long and hard. And then I said, well, then we'll have to do the standards album because I really like these songs, and we really must do them, which is also long and hard and technically difficult because it involves an orchestra, So he's being an incredibly good sport about it, I mean, I just don't think you could find anybody that would work that hard for that little money,
What standards are you doing? Which songs?
Well, I hate to say all the songs before I put them out. Ghost of a Chance is one of them. I've Got a Crush on You. Keeping Down the Mischief we're doing. Those are three. It's a pretty, it's kind of it's an amazing position to be in, to be able to select from all of the best songs that were written from a certain era, like when I do records now. I mean, because I don't write, I have the luxury of choosing from the best writers and from their best tunes over a certain period of years. But the kind of music that I sing is has been being written for the last 20 years. But over with standards, you have a lot more time and the whole body of work. So I just picked the ones that were my absolute favorites that I thought suited me the best. So it was pretty amazing. But I don't know whether. I mean, I'm gonna do my best singing them. I love them. It's definitely a thing that I'm doing for love. I love rock and roll too. I'm gonna keep making rock and roll records as long as there's a demand for them, as long as I can do it. And I've already got 20 songs for my next record already sort of picked. I'm sure out of those maybe 7 will work, and then I'll still be scrambling around for the last 4 or 5 songs that we need. But I always want to do that, but this is just a special thing that I've always wanted to do. And I'm going to do it the best I can. I don't know how well I'll be able to sing this stuff, but because I'm having to learn the genre at the same time that I'm recording it, you know. But if there's a market for it, you know, I hope people will buy it. If they don't, it's just what I did for. It's the only thing I've ever done that was just for me, you know. So while I've been recording, and I think we'll be able to make enough money to pay for it, and then it won't be that self-indulgent if it gets paid for, you know. But I think the songs are beautiful. I really don't feel like it's self-indulgence. I think the songs are gorgeous, and I think they deserve for people to listen to them, you know. And I think they're very accessible. I think people are going to love them. I think they're you can still identify with them. They haven't aged at all. They're not camp, you know. They're not. They don't look like they belong in an antique showcase. They're beautiful songs that will feel just as vibrant and just as alive. I mean, as vital as they were, I think, the day they were written, you know.
You know what's interesting about this is before, I guess before the Beatles, really, or maybe, I guess, before Elvis to some degree. I mean, before rock and roll, you know, singers were just singers, and there wasn't this emphasis, first of all, on singer-songwriters, right? Yeah. So there wasn't that kind of pressure on Frank Sinatra or Ella Fitzgerald to have to write their own songs.
Yeah.
You know, now it seems almost unusual for a singer not to. I mean, there's
no, it isn't. I think that there was an emphasis on that in the early 70s that I think was blown way more out of proportion than it really is, you know. But I don't think that I still think those people are more in the minority. It's too hard to write a good song, that's why. You know, so there aren't very many good writers. There aren't that many good writers because it's too hard to write a good song. And of those songwriters, the ones that can also sing well enough to present their work in a way that people are going to want to buy is even fewer. And then those people that can, most writers get most of their inspiration in their early 20s, you know. And then when they pass that, it doesn't mean that what they wrote in their 20s isn't perfectly wonderful, but it does mean that because you get a different way of looking at things, you're not as inclined to be so inspired by someone looking at you or a movie that you saw or something. I don't know, all the things that inspired us when we were younger, you know. It doesn't mean that those things aren't inspirational, but later on, you're inspired by different things, you know. So, so people have a tendency to peak in their writing, and then it's not so good anymore, which is a natural thing. It should be that way. And then there are a few exceptional people that continue to write and even actually continue to do better and better work, like Paul Simon is a real writer, you know. He continues to write. I think J.D. Souther's a real writer. I think he's going to keep writing. Randy Newman is probably the best of all of them. I think he's the best American writer today. I think he's probably doing his best work right now, because that's what he mainly does. He writes. He doesn't wait for his heart to get broken every 2 minutes, you know. He doesn't have to have a love affair to write a song. He writes little short stories about stuff, and so in that way, he's like, you know, any great short story writer that just keeps, you know, looks around, sees things, remembers things that were said to him, and writes things about people besides himself and experiences besides his own, you know. So he also has fresh material. And because of that, I think that somebody who's an interpretive singer is just gonna. I'm a singer. I've always been a singer. I've written occasionally, but that's not what I do. I'm not a writer. I've never wanted to be a writer even. So, but I always wanted to be a singer badly. So I can keep doing that, and there'll always be good material around, you know. I hope, anyway. Well, if there isn't, there's plenty of stuff left over from the beginning of the century, you know.
Well, that's what I mean. You no longer feel. I mean, was there a period of time when you felt sort of locked in to having to be a rock singer? You know, that people, what people's expectations of you were, that you did that one thing, and now that it's all available.
Well, see, I mean, I never really felt locked into anything, because my records have always been a patchwork of a lot of different kinds of music, you know. I mean, I've been criticized for that. I've been praised for that. You know, I don't think people quite know what to think about that. I don't care. I've always sung the stuff that I love. You know, that's the only thing I can do. I don't know how to choose material any other way. I think it would be a mistake to try any other way. I've read reviews where people say, oh, well, you know, that people are describing me and Peter Asher sitting up in the middle of the night going, well, we have to carefully plan out the pacing of this record, and we have to carefully select from this kind of music and that kind of music, put it all together in this sort of thoughtfully arranged little pattern. It's not like that at all. If they could see us in there beating our heads against the wall, you know, in the studio, sort of bumbling around, it's more like, you know, I hear a song on the radio and that that sort of expresses something that I feel at the moment, and I go, oh, I've got to sing that song, or somebody writes a song that I really love, or I find a song, an old song on a record that just, all of a sudden, it just gets in my throat. I have to sing it, and I do them because I love them. I don't do them because I'm trying to contrive some attitude, and so it's the same way with those standards. They're so good, they're such good songs, and they express what I feel right now so perfectly and so eloquently. Plus they're structured, the melodies are structured for a singer way better really than rock and roll is, because rock and roll is really structured for an instrumentalist to have something to be doing while he's playing hot licks, and rock and roll is more structured to make a good record than it is for good songs, and all those things that came out of the 20s and the 30s were really structured to be good songs. You can sing them in the living room with just one instrument, or you can sing them without any instrument, and they stand up.
Well, would you put I've Got a Crush on You on the same album, say, as Get Closer?
I don't think so. I don't think it would be fair to either of the tunes. I don't think they would make a good frame for each other, I could put a McGarrell Sisters song on an album with Get Closer. For some reason, even though it's a very abrupt transition, it just works better. But the song's standards I've put in very lush settings, and they have to set a mood. An album that has a song like that on has to set a mood. It has to be something that you can put on the beginning of the side, and it can just build you up and sort of cool you out for a good, 15, 20 minutes, and then you turn it over and you get a little bit more of the same. It's like putting on a Frank Sinatra record. You wouldn't want to get into a mood that I've Got a Crush on You would set up for you, which is real dreamy and soft, and all of a sudden get jolted out of that by Get Closer, any more than you'd want to sort of get into a frame of mind that you want to start dancing around with a song like Get Closer, which I love. I think that's a great song. But then it wouldn't be right. They wouldn't be good companions, I don't think, on a record. So that's why, because at first I thought, because I love those songs so much, I thought, well, I'll just dribble one or two songs onto each album, and I'll get to do all those songs, and I still won't have to put out this concept album, which might jolt people a little bit. But it just didn't seem right, and I can't do it because I have to do it because it seems right musically. That's the only reason I've ever been able to do records anyway. And I don't know how to do something unless it's something that I like. And that's what I like right now. I like that stuff. I think it's beautiful. I have to get it out of my system. I also love Carla Bonoff's songs. I've always wanted to do a whole album of just her tunes, I don't know whether I will or not. Again, with Carla's songs, it's easier to dribble one or two of her songs onto each album. She's written so many things that I think are incredibly strong. I think she's written a lot of hits. But I may do just the way I've been doing and do 2 or 3 of her songs on each album, and with other people's songs like JD's and old Rolling Stones songs and anything else I can find that I like,
How long did this whole Pirates thing take? I mean, how long was it in your life?
It took much longer than I ever dreamed. I mean, it started out to be 3 months, and it wound up being about 2-year project. Yeah, it was about 2 years, because I remember finishing up in April, or May, I guess. This is the show on stage here, and it was about in April when we finished up in London doing the movie. It stretched on for a very long time, and it was kind of a problem for me, even though I loved working with those people, and I wanted to complete the project because I had started it, but it made it hard for me to do a lot of the things, like finish my own album that I was doing, and finish the Standards record, which I would have had ideally out ages ago, and I would have been on to other things by now. So, but I'm glad I did it. It was such a good experience for me. It took me out. See, in rock and roll, you tend to get isolated so much. You know that from your years of interviewing people. You know how isolated they get. And I don't think it's healthy for your work. I certainly don't think it's healthy personally. And I got out in the world a little bit more. I learned that everybody isn't walking around with their Halloween costume on as much as I thought, I can deal with people a little bit more now on a general level. And I've also learned, I learned this years ago, but I know it so much more clearly now that rock and roll and the record business is just not the center of the universe. And no matter how well you know that, when that's all you do, it begins to look like that in spite of your best intentions to try to keep your mind open. And I don't think that's good either. And so because I've just been dealing with the world in general a little bit better, and with other facets of the entertainment business, I just have a lot more confidence in what I'm doing, in what I do, not even just what I do musically, but just sort of what I do on a daily basis, because I think I have a more real view of what's going on out there, It's kind of scary, as a matter of fact, what's going on out there. But I'd rather know what it is than be spooked by the kind of mystery of it, like that idea that things are cloaked or things are hidden. You don't know what's really going on. You can imagine them worse.
Did the experience of having to do that kind of really demanding stage role vocally, I imagine it was demanding as well as just physically, doing Pirates, eight shows a week?
Yeah.
For a year or whatever it was that you did it. Has that made this kind of rock and roll touring now seem like a piece of cake?
No, because this is very grueling and always has been. It's just hard in a different way. I just did 6 nights. Well, I didn't do 8 shows, but I did 6 nights. Let's see. It's more grueling because I have to be completely responsible for what I'm doing up there every night. I kind of have to make up my job every night before I go there. And that scares me a little bit. And I have total responsibility for what goes on in that concert for an hour and 20 minutes every night I'm on stage. And with Pirates, it was more a shared experience. That I knew that Kevin was wonderful, and I knew that Rex was adorable, and I knew that, George and Tony were going to be just being amazing up there, and Estelle. So I didn't feel like the complete responsibility for entertaining everybody was on me. And I got to be somebody else. I got to be a different little person, she had very predictable kinds of things that she would go through. Mabel did, She was a little bit different every night, but she was always within the confines of her personality. And me, I never know what's going to happen to me every night. I never know what's going to happen, It makes me very nervous to perform. I didn't get nervous performing in Pirates, but I get very nervous doing rock and roll for some reason.
What's the most nerve-wracking thing? Is it talking to the audience? Or just
that bothers me a lot. And part of the reason it bothers me is because we play in these big places that echo, and every time I say something, it echoes so much that it throws me off. I think they can't understand me, so I usually keep my remarks very short. But it's also incredibly athletically demanding vocally, because there's so much amazingly loud stuff and then very soft stuff and then loud stuff. There's so much dynamic range that it's real hard. And also all that traveling. See, at least when I was working on Broadway, even though I did 2 more shows a week, I got to go home every night, and I didn't have to pack, and I didn't have to worry about whether I left my cassette player in the hotel before, and whether my household at home was running, and whether my dog ran away or something like that. You just go there. It's really a routine, so it's very comforting in a way. But it was very confining too. I didn't have time to do anything else besides that, and I didn't like that very much after a while. And I never got to see daylight. I was inside that theater all the time, I thought like a certain number of hours of ultraviolet to keep me sane. And I was always inside an artificial light. And the movie was even worse that way, because the movie, we went to work in the morning, it was still dark, and we didn't come out till it was dark. We worked very long hours. I don't think I'd like to do that very much.
You didn't like making a movie. Was it mostly waiting around?
It was waiting around in costume, which was uncomfortable, with makeup on for 12 hours at a time. My eyes, there were little things like that. My eyelids were bruised when I got finished doing that, because they poke at you all the time. All the time in between takes while you're sitting around there always freshening your makeup, and you'd think that having somebody's fingers on your face very lightly wouldn't hurt you, but after 3 or 4 or 5, after 4 months of it, it's just over and over and over every day, all day. It's like Chinese water torture, You get finished with a week and your face is bruised and your eyelids are puffy, and my eyelids were all black, would be little black and blue marks on them, and I just walk around with my hands over my eyes. I would never put makeup on when we weren't actually working, and
well, makeup is the worst.
I wouldn't even want to wash my face.
Out.
It hurt.
I had to do 3 weeks of TV once with TV makeup, and it just my face broke out.
Well, it's not it wouldn't be that my face would break out. It's just that it would get so overworked. My skin would get so overworked from just being touched all the time. From little camel hair brushes and people powdering you and stuff. It just gets sore. from the use. I mean, you don't think things
Right.
like that, but it's true. And from wearing all those costumes, you know, because Victorian costumes, you're laced into them, and and you can't sit down because then they have to iron it again, so they put you on leaning boards, and it's just very physically uncomfortable work. I have nothing but respect and admiration for any of those people that are able to do it for a living, because I don't think I could.
All right, anyway, now let's just carry on. Do you still hate the traveling? And
I hate the traveling,
whole
yeah.
road thing?
It's not any fun, you know. I don't think anybody'd really like that. It's just like being hurled around, you know. It's just sort of motion all the time. But I like getting to know things, you know. I learn a lot of stuff when I go around. I don't mind traveling if it's like, again, with the movie, one of the good part of that experience was that I got to go to a city that I really liked, which is London, and stay there for 4 months, although it was useless because I never got to do anything except for go to work, you know. So I was inside that studio. I could have been on Mars and it wouldn't have mattered, but I don't mind traveling when I actually get to go to someplace and then stay there for a while, you know. So I loved being here in New York, for instance, because we're here for a week and we got to unpack our stuff, and I love it here. I go around and look at the buildings. I get to run Central Park, and I love it here, you know. It's just great. But one-night stands are no fun for anybody. Nobody ever likes that. We make the best of it. We have a lot of fun with each other. I love the band. You know, we're all really good friends, and we all get along great. And we get in the bus, and we you know, we have as much fun as we can, you know, doing that. But it's always sort of more fun at our own expense, you know. We like for Halloween we all had costumes, you know. I had a fairy costume on, and it was really funny. I wore this costume, and we got on the bus afterward, and we accidentally took a wrong turn. We went into Canada by mistake, and we had to come back.
Where were you?
We were, I don't know, wherever it is near Canada, I guess upstate New York. And when we came back, they told us we had to come through customs, and we just didn't know what to do. There were just a zillion of us, and we were late, and you know. And I thought, well, I'll get out and say, well, you know, please let us come through, because it was a mistake, and we didn't really mean to. Because sometimes I'm good people like that. And I looked down and I realized I'm in this green fairy costume, and I had wings on my back, and I had a little wreath of flowers around my head, and had a wand, and I just wouldn't have made it. They would have sent me right to fairy jail, I think. So, stuff like that happens to you, and then you remember it, and it's funny later. But mostly I like staying at home. I like it. Or I like coming to New York for extended visits.
You have said that you think that domestic, I don't know how exactly you've put it, but that you admire people who are domestic, or that whole kind of domestic life, or taking care of that aspect of one's life, that you've always been in awe of that.
Oh, I do.
Is that still...
I am, yeah. I don't believe, I can't understand how people can run their households efficientally, I guess it's just something that takes years and years of practice. But I was reading a book about Rebecca West, who's an author that I love. She's a writer that I love, and she was talking about that too, about how she could never give a party or cook a meal or anything like that, because she just didn't know quite how to do it, because she was always working, And I thought, oh gee, that happens to other people too. Because I get home and my suitcase is thrown all over the place, and something's broken, and then I have to leave again real fast, So I have a hard time organizing things at home.
Well, have you had any time off? When was the finish of the movie before you went into the studio to do this
we
record?
went immediately into the studio. I haven't had any time off in a long time.
And then right after this record, you went out on the road?
Yeah, right. We worked right up until the last minute. Peter's really exhausted, I think.
Thank God.
It works so goody, because he has to, he has to do James too. When James is working, he has to help him with his work too. But I'm going to take some time off. I think I'm going to get 10 days off in December.
That's it?
No, wait a minute.
10 days?
Oh, I think I get the whole month of December. No, I don't get the whole month of December off, because my standards record. I'll get about probably 2 weeks off.
And then what? What's next? You said you plan a year at a time?
Yeah, pretty much. Then I'm going to Europe to do a bunch of publicity stuff over there. And then Joe Papp and I are still discussing this idea of doing two pieces by Kurt Weill and Bertolt Brecht, Seven Deadly Sins and Mahagani. But we're not sure whether we are going to be able to do it or not yet, but we're trying. So if I do that, that'll take up the spring probably, and then I want to make my next record because I've got all these songs already to go, and that'll take up the summer, and I'll probably tour some, and I don't know what else I'll do after that.
With Mad Love, was there a conscious decision at that time to make it kind of more of a new wave album, the way some people took it?
That's again, that's something that they wrote in reviews, and there wasn't. I mean, I don't like new wave music very much, so it would hardly be a decision on my part. What it was that I went out to clubs and I heard every sort of new writer that there was. One of them was Mark Goldenberg, who wrote 3 of the songs on that album, and one of them was this guy Billy Steinberg. And I recorded their tunes, and I recorded them. I used Mark to play. You know, I use the same players that I use. It's just that they were those kind of songs, I guess, but it didn't seem like that to me particularly. You know, I like the songs, I still like them, but I would hardly think that "Hurt So Bad" is a new wave song. You know, and it just doesn't sound like that to me. "Mad Love" doesn't sound to me like a new wave song. It just doesn't. You know, how do I make you maybe just because Russell played that long drum thing at the end?
Maybe because also the Elvis Costello songs, I think.
But "Party Girl" is hardly a new wave song, you know.
Well, I don't know.
I mean, that's a beautiful ballad, you know. I love that song. It doesn't sound new wave in my show. So that other weird Elvis Costello song, yeah, I shouldn't record that. It was not the good
What,
song.
Girls Talk? Which one?
No, I don't think a Girls Talk is a new wave song either. There was another weird Elvis Costello song, the name I can't remember, which we got on some funny demo and we threw it on there. It was one that had never been recorded or released by him over here. I didn't like it very much. I shouldn't have done it, really. That's one of the few albums that I've put songs on that I didn't like that much, and that was one of them. But I mean, again, like I said, when people say Elvis Costello songs, I immediately think of a song like "Party Girl" or "Allison." Hardly new wave, you know. A Girls Talk is just a good rock and roll song, I think, you know. I don't think I sang it very well. I could have left that one off the album, too, just from the lack of strength of my performance, I think.
Are you like this, though, looking back at all of your albums, picking them apart and thinking that
I rarely do it, you know. I rarely do it. It's just because you brought that one up that I was thinking. I've never heard it since we recorded it, ever. So, see, we mix them, and I never listen to them after that, you know. If they play on the radio, I usually won't listen to them either. Unless, when they first come out, I might sometimes listen to them and see what the mix sounds like over the radio, because that's part of the process of you know, of the work. It's just, you know, you say, okay, we did this, and we tried this experiment and that experiment. Let's see if it came out over the airwaves like that. But once it's done, I never ever want to hear it again, because it drives me crazy if there are things that are wrong, or, you know, things that I thought I could have done better, things that I thought I should never have done, you know. And but mostly I just listen to other people's records.
Who do you listen to now? Who are you listening to?
Well, I listen to a lot of ethnic music. I always have. I listen to a lot of Irish music. I listen to a lot of Frank Sinatra stuff, and I listen to Emmylou Harris's records. And then I've got a jukebox at home with tons of old rock and roll on it, and I listen to that all the time, you know. I love it. I mean, I put it on in the morning when I get up, and I keep rotating the records on it so that there's always lots of stuff. And, you know, I got lots of Everly Brothers and lots of Chuck Berry and Little Richard and
Did you really think that when you were going to sing for the first time you were going to sound like Little Richard? That's something I read.
When I was little, I thought, because I would, you know, I'd sing along with the record, and I had a baby voice, you know, a little baby voice, and if I'd sing it all by myself, good golly, it's Molly, you know, I think that it would sound like that, because I'd be singing it, but I'd be hearing his voice in my ears, you know. I mean, years later, I'm sure I thought I would sound like, I don't know, Judy Collins or something like that when I started recording, you know, because I would sing with her records sometimes, but I didn't sound anything like her, you know, so it's always a little bit disturbing to find out that I didn't sound like anyone else. I thought there was something wrong with me for a while. I didn't realize that was probably a good thing to not sound like somebody else. I wanted to sound like Jackie DeShannon for a while. You know, I would have given anything to sound exactly like Jackie DeShannon. I just loved the sound of her voice. And then for a while I wanted to sound exactly like Dionne Warwick, you know. But I never was able to sound like any of those girls.
A lot of the reviews of your current album and also of your current stage show have mentioned that you seem to be singing with a lot more confidence, or like gutsier or ballsy or something. Do you feel that way? Do you think that that's a result of first of all, do you think it's true? And if so,
I think
do
I
you
sing
think
with
it
more
has anything to do
confidence. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that the years and years and years of singing that I put in, I've learned a lot more about phrasing, you know. Phrasing's always been my worst problem.